Okay, to begin with today, this is a challenge day. It's an extension day, and you're going to be asked to use synthetic and long, which you already know how to do, no big deal there. And to get the y-intercept, you want to set x equal to 0. So that's not too hard either. You just go up into this equation here, and you set the x equal to 0. The next part is rewrite the equation in factored form. You're going to get it factored, and let's say it looks something like this. I'm not saying this is the right answer, but let's say it looks something like this. How can I solve that if it won't factor? First of all, you try to factor it, and sometimes it will. Quadratic formula. If it won't factor, quadratic formula. What if quadratic formula doesn't work? The calculator. You can use a calculator to get the answers if the quadratic formula won't work. Why would the quadratic formula ever not work? What if it's x to the 4th? And you can't use quadratic formula on x to the 4th, can you? Okay. That's how you can solve and get the roots, the zeros, if it's something the quadratic formula can't handle. So again, if you can't factor, it's like your things you normally do. First, you try to factor it. Second, if factoring doesn't work, you try to use the quadratic formula. But if it's got like an x to the 4th on it and you can't factor it, which by the way, you can factor some of the things with x to the 4th on them today. But if you can't factor one, like let's say this, that one would not factor. If it won't factor and it won't quadratic formula, you got to use the calculator. And how do I do that? I graph this thing, and if I graph this thing and it looks kind of like this, then these spots, those are all the real roots. Again, they wouldn't be imaginaries because the calculator can't show you the imaginary ones, but wherever it touches, these are real roots. So you're going to graph some today, and it'll say right in the directions, use the calculator. And you know if it says use the calculator that the thing wouldn't have factored and it wouldn't have quadratic formulaed either. Okay? So let's move on to actually doing one of these together. So everybody go to A and let's set it up for long and synthetic. All right? So for long division, you got to write small because this thing is like really big. X plus 7 would be the thing on the outside. And then it's x to the 4th plus 9x to the 3rd. I'm watching out for missing terms here. So if I have 4 to the 4th, to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the 1st, yep, no missing terms here. I'll warn you, there are missing terms on this worksheet. Just not on this problem. If there had been missing terms, I would have said a 0x. One more hint, later on in the worksheet, this part here has never had missing terms before, but it will. Okay, when you do the next problem here, it says to use this. You're going to set it up in the same format, and it'll be like this, x to the 4th plus 7. Do you get how something like that would have missing terms in it? And you need to add a 0x to the 3rd, and a 0x to the 2nd, and a 0x to the 1st. Okay, so don't forget to include missing terms out there if necessary. All right, so back to this problem. What do we start with? We start with something here that will go that times this x, and we'll make x to the 4th. And it turns out that's x to the 3rd. So that's why on this one you're going to have to use a calculator because a quadratic formula won't work later. Because our answers are x plus 7 and whatever this turns out to be. And that's starting with an x to the 3rd, so you can't use the quadratic formula on things that start with x to the 3rd. All right, so now I'm going to go to x to the 3rd times x is x to the 4th. X to the 3rd times 7 is 7x to the 3rd. I go through, switch the signs on both of them, and this becomes 2x to the 3rd plus 5x squared. Notice I brought that 5x squared down. And now I got to figure out what goes here. Plus 2x squared. Oh, that's a 15. I just miscopied it. Thank you very much. So this is a 15. Sorry about that. Okay, so then 2x squared times x makes 2x to the 3rd. The 2x squared times the 7 is going to give me plus 14x squared. Now I draw my line, make it opposite and opposite. Really easy to forget that. And then this turns into x squared. Bring this down. Plus 12x. And I think you can finish this thing from here. I don't want to do the whole problem for you because we only have a few, and I'm cutting off the last couple problems on this worksheet because they are so hard that I'm afraid some of you get just really depressed if you had to answer all of these, because it'd be like, this is impossible. Okay, so the next part is to do this whole thing with synthetic. Do you remember how to set up synthetic? You make a little box like this, and then you write down all the coefficients on it. 1, 9, 15, 12, and 35. I've already told you this one works. So you go 1 times -7 makes -7. Then you add these two, makes 2. Then you multiply it times that, makes -14. I'm going to stop there and let you keep doing that one yourself. All right. Now, again, these are hard. And I'm going to want you to be able to work with a partner on them. And I'm going to say that's it for the video for today. I was just mainly trying to give you an idea of how to start these really challenging problems. And that's all I have for the extension on Unit 8, Lesson 4.